So today's elegantly raw tidbits, I'm speaking about how not to abandon yourself. Big issue. Most people who've been through abandonment, whether by someone from their childhood or maybe their first job, they felt very abandoned by the people who hired them or didn't hire them. People feel abandoned by the government. People feel abandoned by institutions. So many feelings of abandonment. And yet, what I find interesting is that most people then go on to abandon themselves. One would think that because they're been through all these issues of abandonment and the pain of it, that they would definitely not be into abandoning themselves. But most people do abandon themselves. And how? How do we do this? First and foremost, because we lie to ourselves day in, day out. We tell ourselves all kinds of stories that we get from mainstream media or because we see thrown at us, all glitzy and all packaged in magazines and films and in advertisements and in sports. And then we begin to believe in it. And we have no concept of even who we are, what our likes and dislikes are, or what our own value systems are, because we have taken on other people's value systems. So there are many ways in which we abandon ourselves. I'd like to think about first thing in the morning when you wake up. Do you immediately start abandoning yourself, or do you take time to just lie in the pleasure of your own energies and your own presence and your own being and thank yourself and thank your body and thank everyone else that you would like to for supporting you and for being there for you? Most people jump out of bed in the morning and immediately abandon themselves. They rush to a cup of coffee. That's abandoning yourself. You don't trust that you can make it through the day without being intoxicated. Yes, coffee. I'm talking about coffee as intoxicant. Absolutely, yes. If you cannot do without it, you're addicted to it. Now, when I first went to France to study, I realized that I was addicted to freshly squeezed orange juice every morning because that's what I was used to. And I didn't realize it and I had a really rough time every morning in France. And that's when I realized you can get addicted to anything. We are very addictive as human beings. And so it's some of us even addicted to being on earth. We're always looking at longevity and ways in which to increase our lifespan. I don't understand that, but it's okay if somebody feels that. But the thing is that maybe you're doing that because you abandoned yourself. If you spend time getting to know yourself and being really fully involved in your life, you will not be interested at all in anything that has anything to do with extending your lifespan. You'll be so happy with the life that you have right now. You won't want anything more than it. So how do we abandon ourselves? Many, many ways. Let me explain first to you that the first thing that I want to talk about is how we abandon ourselves when we put our head, our nose, or hearing into other people's business. Now, Katie Byron, I like when she said in one of her workshops, she said, there are three different kinds of businesses. There's your business, there's my business, and there's the universe's business. If you're poking your head, your nose, your thoughts into other people's business, you've just abandoned yourself. You really are not focusing on your own business. And that's why you're putting your own intentions, your own attention into other people's business. For example, someone cuts you off as you're driving. Do you then say, thank goodness I was driving and mindfully, or I'm so glad that I'm protected here? Or do you lash out at this person in rage? You could have gotten me killed. Oh my gosh, now you're going to make me late because you've cut me off and I missed the light, blah, blah, blah. You're getting into other people's business. And every time we put ourselves in other people's business, we always become agitated. Always. You'll find always you're upset, you're agitated, you're angry, you're disappointed, you're in pain, you're suffering. When you stay in your own business, There's no such thing at all. If you're in the universe's business, it means you're worrying about earthquakes or too much rain tomorrow and I'm going out. You're worrying about the heat of summer. You're worrying about maybe a volcano coming. Why not prepare yourself instead? Why not do things so that you can be prepared for it and be trusting that the universe will do what exactly is needed for you? Whether it is that your house needs to go or you need to go, just trust. It's something must give. And the first thing we give up is trust. But trust is exactly what you need in order not to abandon yourself. Now, what are other ways we abandon ourselves? We attach ourselves too quickly to other people. Immediately, we go from a first date to being in a relationship. Then, I want to ask you, if you are really in a relationship already with somebody else, are you in a relationship with yourself? Because if you find yourself attaching too much to other people and wanting to be in a relationship with someone else, it means you do not have a relationship with yourself. You need to first really focus on being in a relationship with yourself. Another way of abandoning ourselves is that we move on too quickly. So when one relationship ends, boom, we don't even take time to breathe and enjoy the amount of time that we now have for ourselves or to grieve before we move on to the next one. We don't deal with the emotional fallout of a breakup. We don't want to do it, so we immediately jump back right on in, head first. And I hear all the time the best way to get over a breakup is to immediately get right back into the game. What are you talking about? Absolutely not. Spend time with yourself. Stop abandoning yourself. If you feel abandoned by that person, look deeper. You abandoned yourself within the relationship itself. Another way in which we abandon ourselves is we're a partner pleaser or we are a worker pleaser. We want to work and please the people, the supervisors, and the people who hired us too much. If we stay or settle in for unhealthy relationships, we've abandoned ourselves. Rather than wanting to find out who you are and to live within the joys of your own personhood, you're willing to remain in a situation that you know only too well and deep down doesn't work for you. But you really don't want to give it up because you don't want to be with yourself. That's a big one. I see a lot of women doing that. Another way is that we look for flaws in our partner, constantly criticizing somebody else. That's being in other people's business again. This is a kind of abandonment issue that means that you focus only on what you see as the flaws in your partnership. If you're focusing on accepting your own flaws, you wouldn't be so busy putting your nose into other people's flaws. Another one is we're reluctant to fully invest in a relationship. We get into the relationship just enough to be in a relationship as we see it, but we do not really invest ourselves in it. How can we invest ourselves in it, though, if we have abandoned ourselves in other ways? We also avoid emotional intimacy, a great way to abandon ourselves, whether it's emotional intimacy with ourselves, with our siblings or parents, anybody in our family or neighbors, whatever. And of course, the big one is that we feel unworthy of love. That's how we abandon ourselves most of the time. If you feel insecure, if you're jealous of every single friend or colleague or acquaintance you come across, or at least most of them, it's because you've abandoned yourself. If we struggle to trust, that's a big one. And I've mentioned it before, but I'm mentioning it again, because if you do not realize and you tell yourself to assume the worst will happen because you've proven that this has happened before, and so you're a pessimist in whatever you're talking about, you abandon yourself, that you cannot handle whatever shows up. We also get separation blues. You like to be with or around someone else or a partner as much as possible because any time spent apart is like pure torture to you. You've totally abandoned yourself if you have separation issues from someone else. Or you visualize your partner leaving you and you constantly think about it. Or you restrain yourself not to say or do something in fear that they might leave you if they find out something about you. You've abandoned yourself. Or if you find yourself over analyzing things or over analyzing people, there's no such thing as a small comment or an insignificant act when you're around. You make a big mountain out of a little anthill and you blow it out of proportion. Or if you're hypersensitive to criticism, it's because you've abandoned yourself. Otherwise, you would not be hypersensitive to criticism, because you would either know or not believe, or believe that that's true and you'd be fine. Or if you have repressed anger, that's another way of abandoning yourself for not knowing that you have anger and for repressing it. No, bring it out into the open and deal with it. If you find that you're controlling, oh boy, have you ever abandoned yourself? That's why you want to control others. You pick unavailable partners. That's another way of abandoning yourself. And many people live their whole lives like that. Or you sabotage relationships at almost every opportunity that shows up because you fear abandonment. And to avoid ever reaching the point where you might feel abandoned, this is what you do. You don't want your heart to be broken the way it has in the past, but you're breaking it yourself because you've abandoned yourself. And other ways, you blame yourself for every single breakup. That's, you've just abandoned yourself again. So there are many ways in which we abandon ourselves. We abandon ourselves every time we eat something that we know is not going to benefit ourselves on a cellular level. We know our cells do not need alcohol. We know our cells do not need anything that's processed, that it can only replicate itself. It can only regenerate when we give it live, healing foods, very hydrating foods. And yet we go and we'll eat a bag of chips and another bag of chips or popcorn or whatever, when we know that if we ate a watermelon instead, we would not be abandoning ourselves. So we abandon ourselves on every level by not spending time with ourselves. It goes on and on. I could go on, and I will in other episodes of the Elegantly Raw Tidbits. But for now, for today, I'm asking if you'd like more, or if you found this helpful in any way, please click the thumbs up button. Please subscribe and press the notification button for more, and comment below. So until next time, thank you for being here today on the Elegantly Raw Tidbits, same time every day.